Oh, don't mind me, guys. I mean, Leonardo DiCaprio just sold me this pen. Not like I needed one. So we're here talking about The Wolf of Wall Street, directed by Martin Scorsese, and that turned 10 years old this year. God damn. But this is based on true events. Leonardo DiCaprio stars in this in the role that probably should have won him an Oscar in 2013. He plays a man named Jordan Belfort, who's a stockbroker. He takes an entry-level job at a Wall Street brokerage firm in 1987. And by the early 90s, while he's still in his 20s, Belfort founds his own firm, Stratton Oakmont. And Belfort being obsessed with money, with his strategies and his sales techniques, he makes a humongous fortune. All while getting into some pretty illegal activities, defrauding wealthy investors out of millions. And him and all the people who work for him, including Jonah Hill, basically run off like bandits. But while the company partakes in a hedonistic brew of sex, drugs, and thrills, the SEC and the FBI close in on his empire of success. And a lot of this movie is very much like a cat and mouse chase. This is one of Scorsese's longest films at 3 hours right on the dot. The Irishman actually took over that title in 2019 as Scorsese's longest feature. But at the time, this was a huge departure for Martin Scorsese. His previous movie before this, Hugo, was a family adventure, and not a lot of people were really into that. They wanted Scorsese to make this crime-filled epic. And I'm pretty sure they got it with all the debauchery these characters are getting into. While not to mention also being fucking hilarious. This, for my money, no pun intended, this has to be Martin Scorsese's funniest feature that he's ever come out with. There are sequences in this movie that will split your sides guaranteed. I don't know how deep I want to get into spoilers on this one, just in case there's some of you who have never seen Wolf of Wall Street. But there is one sequence in here where characters basically start to see the gigantic ramifications and side effects of Quaaludes. Because Leo's character is absolutely, like, I mean, if money was not his biggest addiction, Quaaludes just might take that title. I mean, holy cow, there's just, like, the fact that you can barely understand this guy just makes it all the funnier. Get out the Let's talk about Leo real quick, because in all honesty, this is probably the role that should have given him an Oscar, because this man absolutely disappears into this movie. Like, you cannot tell where the line between Jordan Belfort and Leonardo DiCaprio actually begins. He gets so f***ing invested in this movie and this environment. And you fully believe that this man is taking every word out of his mouth as gospel. His speeches throughout this movie, like, you can tell that it's not, like, you can tell that this guy is not squeaky clean, and you can tell that this guy doesn't have the best reputation in terms of legality. But it's also, I think it's also the way Scorsese actually directs these moments, because just in these normal little office sequences, he makes it come off like a gigantic pep rally. And with the angles that the DP is choosing for this, my God, it looks like this guy is giving a presidential speech to millions. And Leo is just eating up every single damn frame that he is in. I know it took him freezing his ass off on location for The Revenant and speaking the majority of his lines in a non-English language. That's what it took for him to get an Oscar. But I think in all seriousness, and all due respect to Matthew McConaughey, but I think Leo should have won that year. Speaking of McConaughey, he is barely in this movie, maybe only the first 20 minutes, but it's just so freaking memorable. That whole opening 15 minutes with Matthew McConaughey and Leo at lunch is how this character learns the ways of Wall Street. And I think it's brilliant setup and excellent exposition. You want to talk about funny people that disappear into the part? Jonah f***ing Hill, man. Yeah, I mean... There's points where you can definitely sort of tell that it's Jonah Hill with all the crazy antics that are written for this guy. But there's some spots with him that, like... you can't really, like, shake that. And it's like he does certain things and you can't really believe that this guy is doing the things that he's doing in the office, and you never really condone it. And thank God the movie never condones it either. You just can't help but chuckle at him, you know? Now, on the topic of Margot Robbie, this is the film that introduced Margot Robbie to the general public eye. And listen, the obvious is definitely obvious. Margot Robbie is a very beautiful woman, but aside from that, She is freaking phenomenal in this movie. Her performance is so underrated and overlooked. I think the accent that she has is pitch perfect. Like, if I turn to this movie on 10 years ago and I see Margot Robbie and I'm looking at her, I would have never guessed that she was Australian. Like, not a chance. Again, this actress disappears into the role. And I really don't think this performance gets enough credit. She is fantastic. Every single performer in this movie steals the movie. Rob Reiner has a lot of amazingly memorable scenes. Great comeback performance for him. And it's just nuts that Scorsese is making a movie that is consistently entertaining for 3 hours straight, and it's never boring. Like, this movie starts off with the guys in the office tossing dwarves at a bullseye. That kind of tells you that you're in for 3 hours straight of pandemonium. And Scorsese certainly delivers on that promise, that's for darn sure. And I also really respect The Wolf of Wall Street for doing one thing in particular with this writing. It never glorifies the actions of these people. It never really shows them in the best of lights. And obviously it's well warranted. They shouldn't be showing these people in the best light at all. But you can show how silly these people are being, and you can certainly laugh at how stupid these people are. And it's very realistic. It shows gigantic consequences for these people. There are years upon years upon years of prison time that we're waiting for every single person involved in this. And the movie never really shies away from showing you the most dire of consequences imaginable. And it's crazy because this is true. This actually happened. Now, how true is it all? That's still very much up in the air. There's a lot of fact versus fiction videos out there about the real Jordan Belfort. Like, how stylish and Hollywoodized was his life, really? But even if stuff wasn't real and overly fictionalized, the way Scorsese is presenting all this material and all these actors are performing their freaking hearts out, every single person makes you believe that this is really happening. And that right there, my friends, I think is the stroke of true geniuses at work. This, in my opinion, is the most entertaining Scorsese movie out there. I don't know if it's my favorite, though. I think it's number 2 behind The Departed. There's not really a whole lot that I can complain about with The Wolf of Wall Street, guys. Yeah, there might be some tonal inconsistencies in the third act. And yes, it may be very jarring to have a movie that is constantly making you laugh for 2 hours straight, and then it becomes this very serious crime thriller. Yeah, under normal circumstances, that would probably throw me off too. But in the grand scheme of things, this is Martin Scorsese. This is a master, one of the greatest to ever do it. He makes such a simple crime story so epic looking in scale. Leonardo DiCaprio is throwing his entire heart and being into this role. And every actor involved should absolutely be commended along with him. Jonah Hill, Margot Robbie giving a very underrated performance, as I've said. McConaughey, Reiner. Jon Bernthal also. Oh my god, he was so funny. And I feel like this is around the peak of Jon Bernthal's career. It was right after his stint on Walking Dead. I think he had just gotten the part as the Punisher. If I'm not mistaken, my timeline could absolutely be very wrong off the top of my head. But point being, every person involved with The Wolf of Wall Street should be very proud of this movie. It has the perfect button of an ending as well. Like, chef's kiss. Only Scorsese could have pulled that off. Don't really have a whole lot to complain about with this one, guys. I'm going to give The Wolf of Wall Street an A+. Yeah, aside from The Departed, which is the most invested that I am in a Scorsese flick, this is the most fun I have watching a Scorsese movie. But let me know what you think of Wolf of Wall Street down in the comments. What is your favorite Martin Scorsese flick out of his filmography? You could legitimately make arguments for at least half of it. Guys, I love discussing all new things in movies and entertainment here on the regular. Do consider becoming a subscriber and tapping on that thumbs up as well, because especially as we wrap this year up and going into 2024, you are not going to want to miss anything new from me, because this is a great community of movie lovers and entertainment lovers over here. There's a lot that's on the docket for us to talk about, so y'all are invited to join us. Guys, thank you so much once again for tuning in and continuing to support this channel. Y'all are the best. And with all that being said, back talk commence.